can you give work away to build more work as an agency? I think you can do it if you're working with someone you trust. Turn a social account from 1,000 followers to 1,000,000 followers. Like, I think you can do that with regular, authentic content.
Well, thanks for coming on, Adrian. Your business is VidZero. So could you, I suppose for the people that don't know you, could you explain a little bit about what you guys do?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, thanks for having me. So yeah, I'm one of the co-founders of VidZero. So we're a full production agency specializing in video. We do a little bit of photography as well, but we started over 2.5 years ago, based in Sydney. And the mission was to kind of make video more accessible to everyone. Like, we'd done a lot of high-end production in the past. Like, my co-founder ran his own agency for a while as a freelancer and kind of knew all the little pain points of that process. And we're like, well, how do we team up, do something different, and tell some really good stories through video without a massive price point and a barrier to entry? So yeah, we've been kicking around with that for a few years. It's good fun.
Awesome. And you had a pretty cool mission recently. You wanted to work with 100 charities.
Yeah, that's right. So my background, I'm not really a video guy myself. I'm not a videographer. I come from like sales, account management, and I used to do tech sales for a long time. And one thing that was I really liked to do with tech sales was kind of a trial model. You use a platform for a month, you work out if it's the right fit for your business, then it's a really easy sell because you're embedded and you know how to do it. So I was like, what if I apply that mentality to video production and we get in on the ground with a very cheap or a free project to understand their brand, their storytelling. They get to meet us, they get to experience what we do. And there's no price point, there's no haggling, there's no like POs or anything. And then they know if we're the right fit for like a proper engagement. And so I had that idea and I knew I wanted to help charities because charities have emotional stories. They need more video content. They just need a way to promote themselves a lot better. So I said to my co-founder, I was like, let's just do pro bono work. Let's just get started, get out there. That'll be our marketing strategy. The more videos we make, the more people will post about us. We share that content. We might get some word of mouth. So we did our first pro bono project in July of 2023. It was for Cystic Fibrosis Australia. And it was great. It was a lot of fun. We filmed the story of Lane Storia, who was doing 36 consecutive half Ironman challenges across 36 days. He's just this absolute gun out in Queensland somewhere, just training constantly, trying to raise money, and had a friend who had cystic fibrosis. They loved the video, and then I was like, let's see how we go. Let's just keep doing this. Let's do like 5 more and see if we can get money eventually. And it was easy back then because we had no overheads. Like, my co-founder could do everything he needed to do: shoot, produce, edit, run that. All I had to do was set up the meetings and tell him where to shoot. And so after about 5 or 6 of them, I was like, this is fun. And we were getting a few paid clients at the time, which helped keep the lights on. I was like, let's turn this into a whole business model. Let's try to do 100 pro bono videos for 100 charities and just like make that the defining mission of who we are. And it was kind of the reason for the number was kind of shock value and just trying something that probably no agency would have ever attempted before. And to be able to, like, you enter a room, what can you say to someone in 20 seconds to pique their interest other than I do video production? There's 350 odd other video production agencies in Sydney alone. So I was like, what's my line going to be? And so that was what we went with. That became the mission. And it's been 2.5 years. We've now done 93. And we are very almost at the end of that journey.
And you've built out a team along that way. So it's how it's fascinating to me because you said, they're all pro bono work. So how are you actually like funding that many projects? I assume at the caliber that you're doing them at, like.
Yeah, well, that's the one thing we made consistent was the quality. Like, we never wanted to compromise because it'd be counterintuitive. If the first project's bad, you've spent all that time not impressing anyone and they wouldn't use the video. So it's just a horrible experience for everyone involved. So everything had to be at the same level as a $10,000 job that we'd be doing for a corporate client. And you're right in that we had no backers, we had no funding. It was all out of the cash flow of the business. So that equation that I said earlier, where it was like, it was logical when there was a team of 2 with no overheads, it got flipped pretty quickly when we became we're now a team of 6. So it is a lot more expensive. But because we made it our mission, we were like, we're going to finish this no matter how much it costs or how long it takes. Like, we're going to get to 100 and do it. And now, yeah, each project, it costs a lot more than it did when we started. That's the stuff you learn along the way, I guess.
How do you because I suppose like free work is something we've talked about a lot on the podcast, and even had some debates around, and Ben's probably shifted my mindset around it a bit. How do you go about like selecting the ones? Because I suppose like there's a lot of charities nowadays, and there's also a lot that are like, you know, have just got going. Do you have anything in there that you're able to sort of vet them or make sure, or is it just any charity?
It's a really good question. I mean, this is a debate that I was having as well. Like, so much of the selection process was just down to me and my gut. And like, I felt like I was getting a little bit better at it as I went along. But the hard thing is there's the logical things from a business perspective of what you would look for. That if the charity's bigger, they're more likely to have budget to use you again in the future. So you'd be better off picking those ones. But it felt counterintuitive to the mission to only do free content for the ones that could eventually afford to use you anyway, because you'd just be telling stories that would already be told. And I wanted to use it as a way to potentially share stories of charities that are a 2-man team. And so many of the charities we work with, the conversation around budgeting is like, we literally, every dollar we get in goes to the service or goes to paying the salaries of the people that are on the books. I cannot ask for like even $1,000. I'd have to go for board approval. I'd have to go through the CEO. There's no way we would ever be able to do a video because it's not something we can spend money on. And so you kind of have to take the business mind out of it and be like, well, like, what if I can't say no to those people? They're the ones that actually need it. and so many of the projects I look back on, I don't think we'll ever get $1 from them in terms of them using our service as a paid like production output. But they have referred us on to their corporate partners. They have wrote amazing posts about us. They've done testimonials for us. They've connected me with people, and they've connected me with bigger charities as well. That was the other thing, is the stepping stone effect of like, when I was starting this, I was like, how cool would it be to say that I work with Oz Harvest, to say that I work with Red Cross or a variety. Like, I want to work with the biggest guys in the sector. But to get into the pitch meeting with them, you need to have cut your teeth with all the other charities that show that you know that sector inside and out, and that, are telling kind of similar stories, but they're brands that they're familiar with. So you show you have the industry expertise. So that was the justification for starting small, because it's like, even though this charity is maybe 1,000th of the size of a Red Cross or a variety, they're going to be telling a similar story. So they're going to give us the cred we need when I am pitching to that company. And so it was kind of a building blocks kind of thing over the years. But yeah, I don't know. I wish sometimes I just had some like magic ball that could tell me if this project was going to be worth the investment or not.
Well, it sounds like it is, right? Like, when we talk about that whole journey of, people that are stuck in an industry that they might hate, and they feel like they're trapped and they never make the jump. But then there are other people that do make the jump, whether they jump into, into a creative role, a part of a business, and they learn literally from the ground up, or whether they go down the entrepreneur route and start their own business, right? And we spoke about that on the airport, in the airport Monday. And it's interesting to hear your story of, you've gone into it with this, entrepreneur route of this really audacious goal with a really awesome mission. But you've been able to build such an amazing team around it. Because a lot of people, like most freelancers, don't get to that point in 3 years on their own.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was kind of the idea of, if you're always busy doing the work, then you'd fuel this referral, this word of mouth cycle of work bringing more work. And I just wanted to be busy all the time. And I didn't want to be me sitting at my desk cold calling people or spending a lot of money on meta ads trying to get the meetings booked. It was like, people should come to us because someone has told them to come to us, or they've seen our work and they like it. And that was the kind of approach that I brought when starting the business. And like, for the paid work that we got initially, it was purely through people that I knew in my network. It was just kind of getting lucky. Like one of our first clients was Canva, because we used to work with someone in the production team at Canva, and they needed overflow work. Great. So sometimes you get lucky. I think for any kind of entrepreneurs or other people trying to start their own video agency, they're always going to start with their own network, and you just have to have a good network, because at the end of the day, no matter what you're marketing with, you're probably going to be telling people you can do video, which they've heard from 100 other people.
Yeah. So how do you differentiate yourself?
Yeah.
And how do you build a team around that? Like I know I'm very fortunate. Like Joe is so in tune with the team and being able to like do growth plans and that sort of stuff. But how have you navigated going from, the team of 2 of you into a team of 6,
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think for me, we were lucky that the very first full-time hire was our head of creative, Chelsea, and she is just an absolute gun in this space. Like I've kind of ceded control of the production side of the business to her brain and said, you tell me who you need to execute at a high quality every single time and not have people burn out, and we'll find a way to build that team around, her vision. And it's kind of been the 2 of us together being like, okay, well, we need more editors, or the storytelling needs a different producer on it, someone with that kind of background. So the hiring was like, we're now Chelsea plus another senior producer, and then 2 full-time editors, and then Zach and myself are co-founders, kind of doing delivery and running different projects. So yeah, it's kind of growing in a way where we at our core just want to tell emotional stories really, really well and be able to connect the audience to the content. And so the creatives that we need to hire are ones that want to work with charities and are really good at telling emotional stories. That's kind of been the mission.
It's awesome. I find I like that the whole thing has been built on a great mission, which I think is super important for attracting talent, but also like showing the values of the business. But I also really like the building trust first. And like, you can go and approach these bigger people, and you've got this, huge number of case studies you can go around people. That I think like that's probably, I think for people that are trying to get into the industry, try to skip over that, or they do like really cheap work thinking they can build up from cheap work. And it's almost better to just do the free work with the bigger people if they're going to be a good case study than trying to charge a small amount.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when I think about like people trying to get into the industry, I think they should take a similar approach. And I actually do know a lot of people that offer pro bono work to other charities. Like even when we would do a pro bono project with a charity, and then at the end of that project, I'll say like, oh, but here's all the other stuff we can do for you. When might you use it again? Some of them have said, honestly, contractors, like just one-man bands, they'll reach out and they'll offer to do a project just for us because they want to help and they want the cred on there. They're real and they want to have more content in there. And the thing is that you can sort of do it in a way when you're going without pitching a project, you can choose what fills the gap for you for the next business you're pitching for. So like if I was a freelancer and I wanted to cut my teeth in like very high-end production work for a construction company, I'd pick a small guy and I'd say, this is the video I want to create for you. I'll do it, at cost or for nothing. And then now you have the best pitching tool to go to the big guy, the one with all the money, and say, well, here you go, check this out. It's creative, it's cool, you probably haven't seen this. I did it in a different way. And you have the control of that project because you're the one giving it to the first company. So yeah, don't know. I think it works. But I'm interested, you mentioned you had a debate between the 2 of you about giving work away for free. What were your opinions on it?
I mean, I'm all for free work. Like I've done a lot of free work. I've done a lot of free work. But I suppose it gets to a point where like now in the business, well, for me back then, it was me. It was my time. So I was like,
Yeah.
throw time at a project.
Yeah.
But now it's being a lot more intentional with the work that we bring on, because it's like more and more, like there's so many people that reach out that want help. And it's like, how do you, that question before, it's like, how do you choose who to help?
Mm.
Because you can't build a business. Well, you built it. You can't say that now, right? I mean, you can't build a business based on free work.
Yeah.
You've done it. But it's,
well, we're hoping to do it. I wouldn't say we're a massively success just yet, but
yeah, that's sort of my take on it. It was like,
Yeah.
I do see the space for free work
Mm.
and in building a brand and building your skill sets, but it's got to be intentional.
When
I
you're-
think I was probably on that side of like, the one part I think is hard with the free work at times is the buy-in that you get from the client around being involved with everything. And I suppose also having that like clear scope. So like clear scope and buy-in were like the two things I find, like if you have that and and the free work makes sense to be able to leverage, then awesome.
Yeah.
You know, it can work. But that was probably the thing that I think when if it's like working with a busy business owner, I think people value the stuff they pay for.
Yeah.
So, but I think it's different in this way with charities, because there's something deeper behind it than just like, oh, we need a video for the website. It's like we need this thing because of XYZ. So like I feel like there would be that buy-in. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
Yeah, no, I think you've hit on a really key point. Like, and when I look back on the projects that didn't go so great for us, it all came down to the buy-in. Like, you really still need a partnership with the stakeholder. They need to want the end output and have a clear vision for it. And yeah, part of the reason, like doing it for charities, is I felt like that would overcome the buy-in problem. That, they really care and they understand the logic of doing it pro bono. If I thought, could I lift and shift this whole strategy and just say, like, we're going to do 100 pro bono videos for 100 tech clients and become the go-to agency that does everything tech content. And like, would it work? I think it'd be a lot harder to find the clients that get why you're doing it and have the buy-in in the project. I think people would lose interest. I think they would maybe be excited in the first week of the kickoff and then forget about you. And then you've got a team of people being like, when are we going to shoot? When's your CEO ready for his interview? And the marketing manager would be like, sorry, it's not a priority anymore. And we don't have budget assigned to it. So my priority is actually the website or the social campaigns that I'm running. And it felt like in the corporate world, you'd have more roadblocks like that around buy-in. So I think going back to the point of, well, can you give work away to build more work as an agency? I think you can do it if you're working with someone you trust. Like if you use your network and pick a business owner or someone who wants to help you as well, that they're not going to string you along or get bored and not reply to your emails, it will work. But you need to already have that kind of trust with them.
It's interesting too, because it's like, how do you look at coming back to team, I suppose? You've said you've done a lot of that based on gut, but how do you hire the right people that or how do you train the people that you can trust to put in these sort of situations? Because they're no small situations. And like for you, are you hiring expertise or are you hiring based on, people and their, just their ability to navigate conversations? Because a lot of the time I assume they're no light conversation. Like I think we spoke about this initially. It's like, these are a lot of the scenarios you go into, they're heavy conversations. And sometimes it can be less about how well you know yourself around a camera. So how can you control yourself emotionally in these situations? Because I think that's such a skill set that I think goes overlooked in the creative industry of like, a lot of people have great skill sets in creatively pulling a project together, but then it's a whole other skill set around managing emotions on site, managing conversations. So I'd be keen to know from you, how do you pick that?
Yeah, well, I mean, when you say hiring, like most of that decision is the producer finding the right freelancers, like a camera operator. We do all the editing and producing. We just have our team that controls for that. But you're right, like camera operators can be technically perfect and they can have all the best gear. but it's the people skills that will determine whether we ever book them again. And so the first credit, like, how do we find those people? We got lucky very early on with a recommendation to work with an outstanding camera operator, Mikey Matthews, Tree Fern Films. He runs his own shop. He's been in the industry for a really long time. Really cool guy. And we worked with him on so many projects because he had this like secondhand nature with our producers that they could communicate really well on set. They knew how to support each other so that the talent wouldn't feel nervous or like wouldn't realize anything, you know. And we worked with so many vulnerable people. Like they'll be telling a story about, you know, their experience surviving domestic violence, or there'd be lifelong living with disability and all the challenges they've had. So in those sensitive environments, you can't have a technical problem go wrong and ruin the mood. And, you know, like the tearjerker moment, you have to have everything go perfect. So he was really great. And then if we ever needed someone, we'd rely on him for a referral. So he'd go for, and because he knew what we needed on set. And so he would have already worked with people in the industry that can do what he can do. And then it just comes down to our producers. Like they are a bit cutthroat, to be honest, in that one project, if there's something that's not 100% the way they want it, they probably won't use that operator again. Because we have to, like, the one thing that is core to our brand is that a charity can rely on us to, on set, everything is absolutely perfect for the client, that they feel comfortable, that they get the right story, that, yeah, like if you're going to drop 7 to 10 grand on a video, the shoot day has to go well. So we can't take a risk on an operator that hasn't been vetted and that we don't trust. I'm sure it's the same for you guys.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah, everything that goes out from our work is a billboard and like ongoing word of mouth. So like where reputation's everything, I think, particularly in this space. So what I like about what you were saying too is like, I mean, one of our core values is we call it trusted partnership, but we used to call it collaboration internally with the business. But because we're big believers in like, we can only work with a certain amount of businesses around, you know, and it's like we want the space to grow. We want other people out there doing great stuff. So like, I think when freelancers come in, they can be a bit like nervous around collaboration and like feel as though it sort of takes away from their own stuff. But I think that's awesome what you guys have built. And I think it also is a thing around like whether or not you're working directly with clients, whether or not you're coming in as a partner of someone else to deliver. It's just like, how can you just make sure that you're just quality of work? And I think like what you touched on too, it's also the service. Like you can be a great operator, you can be technically great, but it's the social side of things as well. You know, how do you make people feel?
Yeah. And what to say in front of a client, what not to say, all those little things. And I'm no expert on it myself. I'm just lucky that my producers are NIDA trained directors, that they know exactly what they need from their operator on set. Like it's, the whole thing is a production. Every point, the minute you shake hands with the client, you're in producer mode. So you need to be able to control that environment. And you don't want an operator that is a risk or an unknown element that might go a bit wild and wear a politically offensive t-shirt or do something on set that might ruffle some feathers.
Have you ever had anything like that?
I've heard stories. Not me personally, but yeah, I have heard of, you know, operators told me about a soundie that showed up and they were wearing a t-shirt of a political leaning group that the camera operator had to be like, you have to go home and change. This is really inappropriate.
Yeah, right.
So I don't know. I hear stories like that. I'm fortunate, and I'm not on set as much myself, so I don't get on the tools. But it's scary because, you know, that's the reputation, and you're doing months and months of work to get to a shoot day. You're waiting for all the approvals on your storyboard, all the best plans in the world. Shoot day goes wrong, video's wrecked. So
Yeah,
it's funny you bring it up. Like I had one of the previous businesses I worked at, I had I suppose an owner or manager, whatever you call them. They pulled me aside. This is when I was a bit younger, 2019-ish. And they said, mate, you can't you can't come to this job like looking the way you do. Back when I had hair, I thought ripped jeans were the coolest thing ever. Had these trashy sneakers that I wore, and he pulled me aside because we were dealing with real estate agents primarily.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
they rock up.
Once you in
Yeah, they rock it with like suits on in their expensive cars, and I'm rocking in with my hair in a messy man bun, ripped jeans, trashy sneakers. And he pulled me aside and goes, "Mate, you cannot rock up like this. No one will take you seriously. I know you're a young guy, but no one will take you seriously." And it's so true. Like that is your brand. Like I know it's funny now. We literally help people, you know, grow their brands online with social media, and it's, you know, we forget sometimes that your brand it can be the clothes you're wearing, how you smell, you know, all that stuff is your brand.
Yeah.
On a shoot day, in every situation.
And you have to control the people. Like if I have a really large production and I need a soundy, I need a gaffer, I need 2 operators, every single person on that set, the client sees them as my business, as my operator.
Yeah.
So like you're extending the elements of risk if you've never worked with those people before, or if they show up in the ripped jeans, or which I think that's a bit harsh, but you know, I'm not doing a lot of real estate. Maybe that's the expectation for them, but
They were bad ripped jeans.
all right.
You don't have to defend me. They were bad. It was a bad situation. It was very.
I like what you're talking about as well. Like, you know, you start producing from the moment and you've got like a team of people and like everyone's responsible for different things. I think like, yeah, we've been talking about this recently as well. Like when you start off freelancing, you're everything, you know, like you're the videographer, the lighting guy, the design guy, the sound guy, like you, and the director, and trying to like get the most out of people.
The accountant, everything.
Yeah.
All
the
behind
but
the
even,
scenes.
even just on the shoot, like there's
Yeah.
you are what most other, you know, films and stuff would do, the job of like 5 to 10 people kind of thing. So how do you, I suppose with a team of 6, you've got that good mix of like, not everyone has to be, you don't need like everything on every single job, but how do you go with like having people on assigned roles, and how have you found that helpful compared to when you just had your, you know, business partner that was going out and doing the jobs on his own?
Yeah, I mean, initially I would do all the pre-production. I would produce. I would try to keep him completely off emails, completely off client-facing stuff, and then we would show up together. I'd be on-site producer, and he would shoot it, and it felt like a good rhythm because it's just the 2 of us, and like it definitely helped with streamlining things that he was shooting and editing, because he when you shoot, you know that he was doing the edit in his head on set. He was like, "Oh, this piece goes here. Oh, yeah, cool." And then as we hired, it became, well, how can we get more efficient at handing things off? And I'm not a producer by trade. That's not my wheelhouse. So we had to hire a producer to figure out what we needed beyond just how to scale this from a 2-man organization into something that could be eventually 10, 20 people. And so really Chelsea is the brain behind all of those decisions, because she realized, well, okay, if like Chelsea coming on as our producer, she was like, we need to up our production level. We need to hire more editors, because then they can come at it from a different creative angle. They have different skill sets in the post-production. It frees us up to do more shoots more regularly. And now we have 2 editors in-house, very different skill sets. So we know, or this type of video, this is going to go to a Gene, or this is going to go to Amy. And we can kind of pick and choose who has the wheelhouse for the type of edit that it needs. And they're a married couple, so they can kind of hand projects between each other, which is cool.
That's
as well.
cool.
Yeah, they live together and they get to work together, so it's really nice. So that's been a cool benefit for us. And then on the shooting side, it's like we have more flexibility now, because while it's great to have one person who can do everything end to end, when you're using a team of freelancers that you trust, same thing with the edit. You know, based on the project, the kind of shoot you're walking into. So you know the operators that are best placed to execute to that style of video or that shoot. Or this person's more familiar with doing scripted piece of cameras. I'll use him for that. Whereas this operator is excellent at tearjerker interviews and the emotional storytelling B-roll. So I think there's a lot of benefit to using a network. That's kind of what I was saying before. It's like the debate of having what they call predators, which is an odd term, but like shoot, edit, deliver all in one person, you could have more creativity in that process. You can go in different directions, but then you're also one single point of failure, one brain. So sometimes it's better to be able to pick and choose the best person for each part of the job, which is kind of where we're at as an agency now. Is we pick the best possible person at each stage: pre-production, production, post-production.
Yeah. I mean, I think too, like as you grow, like for the freelancer to grow, they either have to start charging more and more and more per job because they are so capped. And what I find that most people do, they just stack shoots together and they bulk do their editing and they sort of just do stuff in that cycle.
Yeah.
Or you grow a team. I think a lot of people get scared about growing the team because they get worried about, it's going to become inefficient, or like, I think there's also an element of like, which we've dealt with internally as well. We've got like a term we like to call like healthy conflict. It's like having where we get to challenge each other's ideas and stuff like that. Because I think someone can, like, a great idea under stress test either stays a great idea or it becomes an even like greater idea. So like, I'm big on like having a team rather than the route of like just trying to only increase price on the freelance side. Because I suppose you also get capped too, right? Like you work with some big businesses, you probably, I think would you say as well, like they prefer working with a team rather than like freelancer?
Yeah, I mean, I've never had to pitch as just a freelancer myself. My co-founder ran his own sort of freelance thing for a while. I don't know that he ever lost business because he didn't have a team, but I think it's you kind of know what you're getting when you're hiring a single person. And I think there's a certain type of business or marketing manager that wants that. And then you're closing yourself off to every other business that they wouldn't ever consider hiring a single operator. They want a team, they want an agency, they want that kind of experience. I think the difference that you get is a more seamless process. Like because we have a producer that works end to end on every project we do, I think that's a much better client experience than a single operator doing everything when they're juggling a bigger book of business also on top of that. So they might start a project, then get 2 more projects come on their plate, and then they've got to juggle, well, I've already set an expectation, now I've got too much workload. They can't kind of scale up, scale down as fast, I don't think. So I think there's something to be said for the client relationship, the experience going from working with an agency versus a single operator. But then the trade-off is the price point. Yes, this is only a big part. And when I started the agency, I was trying to compete on price with freelancers. I knew what the freelancers could charge for an end-to-end product, and I was like, we need to compete with them. Like we need to be kind of cost competitive at that point. And it was too cheap to run an agency. Like we would go broke. Like the costs were spiraling up for us, but not for them.
Yeah.
And we were still trying to compete at that price. So it wasn't working.
We did the same thing.
Yeah, it's interesting learning that because you build a business based on freelance pricing, you realized there is a reason the agency put a margin on top of your prices. There are a whole whack of other responsibilities that come with it.
Everything, all the back end, all the licensing, all of the costs of running a business that they don't have to deal with because they're just a person with equipment. But the fear in it with the change in pricing was, I was so convinced that the strategy that would work for us was to go wide quickly, build a big client base so we're more sustainable because of word of mouth, because of repeat business, as opposed to being tied to like 5 very high value clients. One of them drops out, you're in a massive hole. How are you going to replace that client? So I was like, go wide quickly. How do you go wide? You are affordable. Because if you're affordable, they're more likely to use you, and maybe they've used a freelancer, but if you're not that different to that freelancer's price point, they'll give you a go. So that was the fear was, at what point does it make sense to actually start charging like an agency and still try to go wide, but not go broke?
It's a hard one to work out because I think it also comes with a lot of mental blocks. Because I think y- you've come from that initial starting point of where you were and why that worked. And even I think you kind of project your own buying mindset
Mm.
around that as well. Like I feel like it's definitely been, that's definitely been the journey I think I went through, the price I used to do compared to like even just going up 30%. Like it's not like you're necessarily going up crazy
Mm.
amounts, but it's enough that just challenges you a bit to go, I'm not sure if they're going to pay it. But it's funny because it's like we do notice now that we do get some of those slightly bigger businesses that come to us and they're going like we've tried, what have you tried before? It's typically we've tried like this before, but we just found it was like it was slow, it was hard to get communication, all that stuff. But I think just like you said, they typically a freelancer, you know, they take on the job and they're all sweet, and then they start to get a few other things to pay the bills, and it's really hard to just reply back to stuff and keep up. So,
Mm.
yeah, I feel like there's a psychological journey you sort of go on as
Mm.
well.
Yeah, yeah. And I think if I'd done more pricing analysis, like, just trying to really understand the sector more, would have helped with those decisions because I was kind of flying a bit blind. And
As you do.
yeah, it's just like trying it. I mean, when I've had the pricing debate with camera operators in my network or like freelancers that I trust, they're like, how often does a client tell you you're too expensive? I was like, never. I've never had someone say they were too expensive. It's like, you've got a problem because you're obviously too cheap. Then you should have people saying, hey, that's actually outside of budget or that's more than what we were expecting. And I was so scared of someone saying that to me
Yeah.
because it felt like they would think that I'm ripping them off or that I don't know the industry rates or that I'm trying to pull the wool over their eyes. And obviously, majority of this conversation is happening in the charity space as well. So doubly difficult. And the last thing I wanted was a charity to feel like I was trying to rip them off. And so it was overcoming that mindset and that fear and realizing that in order for me to like at scale help charities, I have to grow a team. I have to make the business profitable. I have to increase. And so we're like totally different to where we started in terms of price point, but way higher in terms of quality and delivery and all the other parts that we can offer. So it's been a journey.
It's fascinating too because you've built out, from my understanding of our chat the other day, you've built out a lot of like space for internships and stuff like that. Talk me through that. Like, how have you gone about, finding interns, teaching interns, creating the space for interns, but then also navigating that on projects? Because, like, again, they're no small projects that you're doing, and it's throwing an intern on that process and that project.
Yeah. I mean, it can open a lot of extra work for the team, but it's something we're passionate about. Like, we wanted to find a way to get more people into the industry, to give more paid work experience. People that want to be on set, they want to experience what it's like to do video production. And it kind of happened because we were on a few like tech shoots and we had people come up to us and be like, oh, my son is doing the HSC at the moment. He'd love to get some experience. Can you just shadow on a future project of yours? And I was like, why not? I mean, that seems like a great thing to offer to them. I know if I was in their position, I would love that, like something to put on the resume and just exposure. So I said to our producers, and I was like, well, how do we make this work? Like, what's a shoot that they could come along to? And we kind of start the process by the producer will interview the person that's put up their hand or said that they want to come. So there'll be a video call, sort of understand what specific part of production are they really interested in. So then we can narrow down the experience on set to just that part of it. Like maybe they really want to get good at script writing and they just want to see that part of it, or they're really interested in lighting. I don't know. Because you don't want them to show up and have nothing to do. So you're kind of understanding where their interests are. And then it's about picking the right project because there's some sensitive ones. We need to control that environment. We can't have someone show up for a DV testimonial or something that's really intense. But then there's like your CEO testimonials, your corporate kind of interviews, and that felt like a good opportunity to get people kind of cutting their teeth in production. And then it was kind of around late last year that we pivoted the model a bit, because we realized we work with over 20 organizations in the disability space. And my son has cerebral palsy. I'm really passionate about more exposure to people who live with disability and kind of building up people's career opportunity in that space, because they're heavily underrepresented in so many industries. So now whenever we talk to a new client in the NDIS or disability sector, in our pitch, we will ask them, could we also get budget for a paid opportunity for someone who lives with disability in our network who wants to be part of this? So they might be like a makeup artist, or they want to be a soundy one day. And 9 times out of 10, the client will say yes, because they live and breathe in disability. Like so many of these organizations, their whole role is helping to find employment and accessibility for people living with disability. So why would they not extend that to the project that they're working with an agency to create a video about it, put it into practice in every opportunity? So I think it's cool. I think it helps. I think it helps with grant applications as well, because it's looked strongly upon for like council work, and any sort of government organizations want to support employment. But I think the key for other agencies is has to be paid.
Yeah.
Like unpaid is a dangerous game when it comes to internships, because when we were growing, I was looking at it like, can I bring on an unpaid sales person to help me get more leads in? And I was looking through all the legalities of it, and I was like, I can't ask this person to do anything, because you have to, like, the minute they start booking a meeting, they have to be compensated, which is logical, obviously. But it was this kind of mind shift of like, but I want to give them the resume booster, the experience, but I also can't afford to pay them, so I'm kind of stuck. So in the end, I did pay someone, but I think there is it's murky when you're doing unpaid kind of stuff.
Totally.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys have dabbled in any of that side of things as well.
It's an interesting world. I mean, like, we've had interns, we've had interns from school and stuff like that. But in all the contracts, there is some form of payment. There's got to be.
It has to be. Yeah. But it wasn't like that when I was I did internships. I was never paid $1. And I don't know if I was just, getting the raw end of the deal, or if things are a bit more, when you say, like, better managed these days than they were when I was growing up. I don't know. But, yeah.
It is an interesting one. I suppose that also the way that we've looked at it too is like kind of comes back to like the buy-in thing, similar with like projects like we'll bring you on, but like I want you to be paid because I want you to I need you to really take it seriously. I don't know. I think I've always been like, we have been approached from a few things that it's basically free. It'd be like $50 a week or something like that through school internships and stuff like that. And I've always been a bit hesitant on some of them, because I'm kind of like if a kid came to us and off their own back and was like, I really want to do this, I really want to work with you guys, absolutely have a look at it. But yeah, I think it's it's all indicative of what the attitude is going in. If it's just a tick the box thing, or if you're coming in purely to, I don't know if you guys had this or you had this before Recreate, but I remember interviewing some people and they were telling me about their business or their thing they want to start up, and they're telling me yeah, I want to build up this other thing, so I'm keen to come in and learn and learn off you. And I'm kind of I get it, but I'm also I'm not building my business to help you build another business. I'm happy if you people to come into the space and build people up in a creative space, but if your plan is to leave in 6 months to start your own thing,
it's the trade-off. It's your time, it's your energy. You got to make that. You got to give them something worthwhile, because if they're coming to learn, that's still time out of your day to figure out what I'm going to talk to this person about. And it makes more sense if they're going to sort of stay in industry or help you or find a way to kind of contribute with skills. Whereas just doing their own thing can be a bit, I don't know, tenuous.
Yeah. Well, what are your thoughts? Because I know some people are like, they're all for it. I know some people are like, I'm happy for team to have side hustles. I'm happy
Yeah.
for like people to come in and they might want to build their own thing later. Yeah, I don't know if that's just like a mindset thing for me. I've just sort
Well,
of been like, if I'm bringing you in, I want you here for like 5, 10, 15 years. I want you to like, I want people to want to be here for a long time.
Well, I think when I think about employees versus interns, like employees, a lot of mine, I know they're doing other work. I don't have an issue with that. Like, I think it's a reality of us being a small and growing business is people need to pay the bills. And I just can't afford to pay people enough to live comfortably in Sydney all the time. Like, you gotta, like, I'm not saying we underpay our staff. We pay them quite well, but even that's not enough a lot of the time.
Not in Sydney.
Yeah, exactly.
Sydney's so expensive.
Yeah, so it's just hard. And I think to say to them, hey, sorry, you're freelance work, you got to completely can that because you work for me now seems a bit draconian and heavy-handed. I think it's more like, if they're purely doing it to supplement their income, but they're still invested in the growth of our business. As we grow, they might not need to supplement their income as much in the future because we can afford more things, we got more work, that kind of thing. When it comes to like internships and picking the right interns, I think so much of it is that first interview, like the chat that we have, where it's like, yes, you've reached out and you said you want to be on set, but then on that call, we can normally determine, are they the right fit? And there's been some people where I've said, look, maybe this isn't the right fit for you. Like, you can tell that they're not quite switched on. They don't have the mind for it. They're not switched on. They're not asking the right questions. They're not committed to the process. And there's the reputational risk that we mentioned before, where I bring this person on set. That's an unknown entity that if I didn't get the right vibe, that could be too much of a risk for our projects. So yeah, it comes down to the person, I think.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, like it's been a massive shift for us moving away from like the freelance game. So yeah, the whole journey of people is fascinating. I'm keen to learn more about what's next for you. Like you said, you got an app on the way. What's the go with that? You want to help more people in the charity space and provide a better way to do it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so we've been working the last like 12 months on something. It's called VidZero Create. The reason this came about, I was doing like a pro bono project for a charity called Mido Foundation. So they do the Bloody Long Walk. So these walks around Australia, they're like 35-kilometer walks. We were doing filming. I was producing this one, and I was doing the walk with the camera operator. And there were all these checkpoints along the way with a volunteer at each one of them. And it was a person wearing the Mido t-shirt, and they were just someone that wanted to help the cause, donating their day on a Saturday to be there. But most of the time, they're not really doing much, just kind of waiting. Because people walk past, they might hand them a cup of water or something. And I kind of thought about it, and I was like, this feels like a missed opportunity because they're so motivated to help the charity that they're giving up their Saturday. And they all have mobile phones. Like, what if I just kind of trained 5 or 6 of them how to film good content on their phones? Then in that same day of the event, as someone walks by, they could capture a 10-second interview saying, well, what brought you here today? Why are you fundraising for Mido? Tell me your story about your connection to the mitochondrial disease, whatever it might be. Then you'd have a month's worth of content. So, and that volunteer could just make it while they're still there helping. And when I talk to these people, they also want to help more than they are because they are so invested in their personally. But so charities don't ask that much of them. They'll just say, well, you're at the checkpoint. That's kind of your job for the day. So that was kind of where I had some more thoughts around that. I was like, is there something here? And then I had, I used one of those vibe coding platforms to build a demo. I was like, you get advertised all the time on like
Base
a few
44
prompts. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Type in prompts and we'll give you an app and it'll work seamlessly. I was like, yeah, okay. So I built a demo of a UGC platform where you write a brief and then through a mobile app, it'll say, this is the type of content I'm looking for. It could be video, image, or text. You'd upload the content to the brief, and then you'd review or approve that content. And you'd be able to see it all in one feed. And I showed that demo to 25 different charities in my network. They'd already done pro bono work with them. They were trusted and friendly with me. And like 90% of them were like, if this existed tomorrow, I would use it. Like, this is exactly kind of a way that we can scale awareness for our charity. We have so many volunteers and we have so many stories out in the field. We struggle to get them, and we can't afford to send camera operators out to all these different places. And there's charities we work with that are international. So like, you know, if you're supporting a family of people in Africa, how are you going to get that content? It's going to be phones. So I sort of thought about it more, and I was like, there's something here. And it made sense as a logical next step to leverage the network of charities that we'd built. Because so many of them, when I asked, you know, what do you do with content? They're filming on their phone already. So it was like, well, how do I play in that space, give them a useful platform so that they can scale their production and not cost them tens of thousands of dollars to do it. And so I hired an agency to build it. I was kind of hopeful that maybe the vibe coding, I could like launch something with just that, but no, the back end is pain. There's no way I could have done it confidently enough to bring it to market. So paid an agency, and we're like a few weeks away from launch now. Like, I'm in Melbourne demoing it to a very large charity network event. And the other angle is video production agencies. Like, I'm talking to agencies saying, why not pitch UGC as part of your campaigns as well? Like, if you're looking at doing a content strategy for any sort of company, authentic storytelling can get the most cut through. Like, people look at these really polished outputs that we create every day and they just scroll past it. And so I do think there's a space to complement that with stuff that's filmed on your phone, that's just done at a little bit of a higher level of quality than just saying to any Joe Blow, like, hey, whip your phone out and take a video. Like, we've got training videos on the platform that they'd watch explaining how to make good content. So we can quality control a little bit. And then obviously the owner of the platform will just decide, sorry, this is not to standard, or accept what they want to keep. So the idea being that the agency can run a pitch and ask for, a lot of UGC to build into the edit. And that could be a way to get new stories and complement a very polished piece of production. Have start with the CEO in front of camera looking all schmick, and then say, why don't we hear from the rest of our team across Australia? And then it's like everyone's waving or saying something interesting. And then you got a video that does both.
It's a fascinating tool. I think there's a lot of space for it,
Oh, yeah.
both in the charity space and for agencies. Like we've had a project where we were supporting overseas in the Philippines, and that was a challenge. It was like how do we get footage over there?
Yeah.
So there's so many angles like that.
Yeah, I think like any boots on the ground kind of problems, like it's so rare that you'd have someone who's like, oh yeah, I'll just pay you to fly to the Philippines and spend a week there getting video interviews. And then is that even a better outcome than just having someone that's already on the ground, who already knows the people, they're already there, they have a phone? But I always found the hurdle is, one, the motivation, because they're doing a full-time job. So they're like, well, it's not my job to also get content. That's too much. Then there's the fear and the kind of the skill gap of like, I've never filmed something before. Is it going to be useful, good enough? I don't know how to hold my phone or what to think about when filming. So there's the training element. And then it's just kind of getting over that fear of putting yourself out there or being a content creator, and kind of it's doing something new. So people are generally a bit apprehensive to that. But these are all things that we want to tackle and see if we can solve it. Because if we can, I think it's a much more scalable solution. And the problems that the charity space in particular have to solve is that they want content so that people know they exist, so they can get donations, but also so that people know that they exist so that they can use their service. Like if you're Beyond Blue and there's millions of people across Australia that are depressed, a lot of those people don't even know what they can use Beyond Blue for, and they don't know the services that are out there that can help them. And I look at, well, how do I solve that problem? You need a lot of content. And you need content that cuts through the noise. Like, it can't just be me pitching to Beyond Blue saying, hey, do another $10,000 project with your CEO, or talk about the research, the latest impact stats in one video. One video is not going to reach 1 million people, but 100, sure, maybe in a year we can grow an audience that way. And that's where I think UGC has a place to grow an audience, to get more regular campaigns going, to turn a social account from 1,000 followers to 1 million followers. Like, I think you can do that with regular series-based authentic content. Anyway, that's my soapbox.
Yeah, I like it.
Oh, I love it. It
I
sounds
like
like a really, really cool idea. I definitely think there's a space for it. I think a lot of people see, people in our industry look at this sort of stuff and think that, like, oh, if we talk about that or promote that, it takes work off of us, or so they try to like talk down on it. I think similarly I think there's a lot of UGC people that kind of like think that, oh, well, this will replace the brand video for the website or something like that. And it's like, or maybe like that consistent ongoing content that is still good to have behind the scenes. It is the high quality stuff in amongst. So I think it's like, and also, which, is a great to have. Before we wrap up, what is the best way for listeners to find out more about you guys, whether it be the app and the agency or both?
Yeah, like probably starting with a website, so vidzero.com.au. We are redesigning it right now, so it'll look even better when this comes out, hopefully. But yeah, the website, or reaching out to me direct. Like, I'm always happy to have a chat with just about anyone from any industry. I'm kind of always interested to get a new perspective on things. And yeah, that's probably the two ways to find us, like emailing me, adrian@vidzero.com.au, and the website.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for coming on, Adrian. Appreciate your time.
No worries. Thanks for having me.